Welcome to Garden Views. Interesting conversations with interesting people who have done and/or are doing interesting things. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome everyone into Garden Views, and this week we are jumping back into sort of one of our newer recurring themes, and that is AI, and our guest today is Kurt Stein. Kurt, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well, Jeff.
Great. Well, Kurt's an IT consultant and a digital transformation expert. He's helped a lot of businesses over his 25 years of experience in technology and entrepreneurship. He started off at AT&T. From there, he co-founded Vista Tech Solutions, and he launched more recently DCT Strategy Incorporated, which is a minority women-owned company focused on providing affordable access to skilled consultants from top-tier firms. They specialize in areas like IT strategy, data analytics, and artificial intelligence, digital maturity, cybersecurity, and cloud services. Obviously, a bunch of these things are of interest to the show. I sort of lump in AI and cybersecurity, perhaps rightly, perhaps wrongly. He has professional education certifications from MIT. I think you've heard of it. He also graduated from Hofstra University, which is not part of my life journey, but is very close to where I grew up. And beyond that, he can kick your butt. He's got a black belt in Taekwondo, and he's an enthusiast of Rolls Grace, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know what Rolls Grace is, but I know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. And so anything that you can do with Ronda Rousey probably makes you intimidating enough. So without further ado, once again, I welcome Kurt Stein into the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So tell me a little bit about, I guess your origin story, what got you into this, and then we'll jump into the substance here.
Sure. So you covered some of it, and if you look at my history of, it was 15 and a half, maybe 16 years at AT&T. So I was in the technology side. I was a global client business manager running all of AT&T's business for specific clients. And they were very large clients for AT&T. Like BlackRock was one of them, which is $7 trillion investment firm now. Yeah. And it was many more. I worked actually at a few law firms, Sherman & Sterling, Skadden Arps. You may be familiar with, and you're
I am. I doubt the listeners are, but if they are, those are very large firms.
So I had very large clients. I was responsible for growing the revenue there, and that's how I got my technology background. And then I launched the company after I left that. I actually went to the outside, and AT&T paid me to still do services for AT&T, but on my own. And basically, they call us like an independent contractor. So I took all that experience and just flipped it around. So no longer an employee, now independent contractor. And we sold all their products and services to their clients, and they paid us for that.
By the way, to any of the world who's curious, that is at least a quarter, if not a third, of what my clients have done. They have worked for a certain department or company and have flipped that around into going into business themselves, forming an LLC, an S corporation, and becoming an independent contractor, doing pretty much exactly the same thing, except getting paid much, much more.
Yeah, I mean, you just summarized it very well. I mean, that's what it is. You go from, tell us what we should do, how do we move in this direction, what's the right pathway, what's the right technology, and they're all working with consultants as well. So we saw an opening there and said, look, the world is changing. This was just around COVID. I mean, a lot of changes took place in COVID. Like, you could see from a business standpoint how everybody automatically worked from home. So companies that never really had a work from home policy had to quickly, adapt, change how they're doing things. So it's no longer a centralized organization where people came into the office and now they had to push their IT out to remote locations. So there was a lot of change that took place there. And that really came into a perspective of digital transformation. That's where clients are really looking at, how do we do things differently? How do we extend out our IT infrastructure to homes on that side? Because doing stuff for free is not really a great thing to do in business. That'd be the equivalent of somebody coming to you and saying, great, what's happening with this AI stuff? Can you tell us what's happening, Jeff? And all of a sudden you're advising people on that side when you're like, wait a minute, I should be charging for this. I'm doing a lot of work and a lot of effort here.
Right. People that do podcasts. Uh-oh.
Yeah. So organically, it's like, well, why don't we just start doing consulting? And that's what we did. And we spun out the company DCT Strategy, and we brought on a lot of consultants. And all of our consultants are overseas, and where they come from is India. And you might think, okay, why'd you choose India? Well, if you look at the world of AI and the base of IT intelligence when it comes to AI, India is the country that is leading in terms of the foundational skills from an AI perspective. They are far more skilled in AI side than any other country. So why not take it from that foundational piece? So all of our folks come from ex-consulting companies, and they have their own practices, etc. So we built up a practice where now we have data scientists, we have cloud architects, we have UI, UX, developers. We build offers to help companies get up to speed on the AI side. So that's the kind of growth that we went through.
I read a stat on India. This was a few years ago, so it's dated, but I doubt it's changed that much. And apparently they are the highest proportionate per rata of PhDs in the world on a country basis, with almost one of the smallest avenues for opportunity for PhDs within their own country, within their own economy, basically. So when you said why India, immediately I know the answer. Why India?
Some people think, you should stay locally. Well, in AI space, what people are going to start seeing is that because of an explosion, the resources are not there. Right? It's you don't have that bullpen of resources that are feeding AI right now, because how many people were sitting there saying AI is the place to be 5 years ago?
Right.
They're not there. That'd be the equivalent of someone saying, "Oh, we're going to have, there's going to be a lot of legal on this AI side. People better start learning this." Yes, you're smart. You're going to learn that side of it, but who's practicing AI, legal aspects 5 years ago? They're not. But in India, they were. They were coding and working in Python and building all this stuff. They would have one, place to go to. And you're right, a lot of MBAs, a lot of PhDs, and in their country itself, they're looking externally. So that's our relationships. So that's organically how we got to where we were, and it's been pretty good for companies here to have that database and that bullpen of the skilled resources, and then we keep the costs low, so it doesn't burn them when it comes to a financial perspective.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's another interesting point, because you can probably get the same or higher quality IT professional in India for a lot less than the same person would cost here in the U.S. Just because the wages there are so much lower. So again, I don't want to give out specific numbers or any information about my clients, and this is just a giant amalgam anyway, because my clients do all sorts of things. But you could easily someone making having a contract for $250,000 a year, which is $125 an hour roughly, actually a lot of times I see like $250 an hour for these types of services. Whereas you can probably hire the same person skill-wise for half or a third of that overseas. So it makes a lot of sense for your client. And, America First is great, but your job is to make the most money for your company and to bring the most value to your clients. So that's, it makes perfect sense, but the numbers don't lie. Anyway, moving on from that, what are the things that people need to know about cybersecurity and AI? Like, what are most of your clients concerned about that other businesses and maybe the population at large is maybe a little bit ignorant on or sleeping on, or at least need to know more about?
Yeah, it's privacy, security. So from from a privacy perspective, and the industry is pretty focused on this, because in order to have businesses use their products and services, the businesses in the legal space, you're seeing all their files, so you have to have some controls over the information that you're seeing, correct?
Yes.
Some law firms could be, defending clients that have done things that are not good, and they need to have those files, and they don't want people having access to those files. Well, in a business, they have all their files as well, and they don't want these AI companies to then take their information and use that to train their models. So maybe let me break that down a little bit more, maybe unpack that.
Sure.
So AI, everybody's familiar with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
So GPT, the acronym stands for generative. It generates new content or new information. The P stands for pre-trained, which means it was trained on vast amount of information. And the T stands for transformer. And transformer is the modeling type or the mechanism that was used to have responses out to people. And the model they're using is called attentive. And attentive was actually created by several scientists at Google years ago. And what attentive means is the following. If you ask a computer today, if you type in something from a computer, it's going to give you a response back of what you asked. Or it's not going to tell you all these different steps of what you asked, why you asked, in order to give you a very human response. And the scientists at Google realized that and said, if we're going to have a computer to give us responses, we need it to respond as if it is a human, mm-hmm. which is why they came up with attentive. And what attentive does is it trains the computer to say, look at the prior requests, look at the prior information that was asked of you. Go back and look to see what was being asked so you can form a context and then give a response within that context, which is how you and I speak. You remember how we began this conversation. You remember the question you originally asked me. When I start responding to your questions, you're going to look at it and say, did I answer the question? Did I give you more information that you want to now build upon? What was the context and how I responded? That's a human way of having a conversation. Computers didn't do that. So they needed to build that mechanism to do that. And that's called attentive. Attentive was added to transformer, which is the modeling type. And that's how, when you put a response into GPT, it gives you a response. If you say, well, can you revise that and give it to me in a different format? It says, sure, no problem. It goes back to your original question and then answers it. And you're looking at it going, is that a person talking to me? Mm-hmm. So that's AI, that's ChatGPT, and that is all these advancements and these inventions that have been used to answer that. So now if you look at GPT and you look at what AI is doing and you look at kind of where things are going, if you understand that basis, you can understand now that it has human reach. They trained the model with the pre-trained part is they needed information. GPT was trained with vast amount of information from the World Wide Web. They actually built teams. It was actually, the teams came out of, I think it was Nigeria or Kenya, and they chose that country for the following reasons. One, it was cheap labor. Two, it was a country with the cheapest labor that had the highest degree of education. So they got the best of both worlds. And what they had them doing is going through vast amount of information, scrubbing that information, so the tool could be fed with information that made sense. I mean, they looked at everything, Jeff. They looked at information of possibly rape and murder and had to get rid of that information so it didn't go into the model. So they had to see a lot of bad things, they had to see a lot of good things, and they had to train that model. So getting to your question, what are companies concerned about? Well, these large language models need to be continually trained on information. They used information they got from everywhere. What companies don't want is for them to take their information and to be fed into the model so it continues to train a model on their information. That's the security and the privacy aspect that they are concerned about.
Right.
And OpenAI, Meta's Llama 2, they realize that. They're aware of it, and they're changing things. So OpenAI has said we'll no longer take information from clients and use that to train our models unless you opt in. And then OpenAI just came out with an enterprise version which says we will never take your information and train the model, but it's going to be expensive for a company to use that model. But continuously, because this is so new, because it's moved so rapidly, businesses are still a little hesitant about having their data feeding a model and having it train that model if that's not something they want to do. So right out of the gate, privacy and security is one of the most concerning aspects for many businesses as to whether or not they're using generative AI, and they want to have models and APIs that prove that that's not going to happen. They want to make sure that's not the case before they start allowing their information to be used for that model.
Okay. It sounded almost like the chat GPT model, the training of it, the learning was so that it almost could pass the Turing test. When you go, am I talking to a person or a computer? I mean, that's sort of the Turing test. I mean, at least the simplest understanding of it.
Right.
Probably oversimplistic. Right. Most everyone saw Ex Machina or something like it. Of course, everyone's worried about the next step when it actually becomes Ex Machina, and she will give her gender, tricks you, and maybe it leads to killing and whatever, and then goes out into the world and does whatever. And luckily for you, we already had a show with a guy who makes robots with using AI, and we've already covered the Terminator, RoboCop, Ex Machina conundrum, at least from his perspective. Though, if you have any thoughts on it, they're more than welcome. I mean, that's always fun. But I think it probably behooves us with an AI expert here to talk about, should people be concerned about, in science fiction it's called the singularity, but basically the robots taking over. Hal from 2001 saying, "I'm sorry, Dave, I just can't open the door."
Yeah, look, Jeff, I've thought about this a lot, and there are people on a couple of sides. There are the ones that are saying that AI is going to end the world, right? And there's that side, and there's the side of saying, look at all the things that we can do. And there's people probably like us that are in the middle of which side's going to go. And I think I said, earlier when we were talking, nobody has a crystal ball, and a lot of people are concerned about letting things get out of control. I think most people are concerned right now, the powers that be, are losing control over what they can control now and maintaining their fiefdoms. I think that's what governments and the people that are running things are thinking of. And I'll give you an example. I was listening to a podcast, Joe Rogan and Mark Andreessen from 16Z. So he's a big venture capitalist, very smart man. The government reaches out to him all the time to get his thoughts on what's happening. And his thoughts were, we can't even figure out the human brain right now. Right. So the fact that we're going to develop AI that's going to become sentient AGI that's going to take over the world, it seems to be something that's far-fetched right now, and something that we don't see because we can't even figure out what we're doing right now from just figuring out why the brain does what the brain does. And he said that the governments are mostly concerned about protecting what they have, controlling things and staying in power. And that's what they're concerned about. And the companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, what they're concerned about right now, and this is his words, were that they are throwing themselves at the feet of the government saying, we've been bad, we're developing all these models, you're right, we have to get better at this. And they're doing this in order to get the government to say, great, let's work together. And then they build the guardrails around their products and services, and then they control it. Mm-hmm. They control the rules, they make the rules, and all these open source models out there like Llama and Palm 2 and all the others, they can't do open source anymore, and they're kind of pushed out of the mix. That's his thought process.
So the government and the companies are sort of playing checkers with each other, each trying to maintain control. I have heard his theory, I mean, that's almost identical to what the gentleman makes. His name's Steve Favis. What he said, what he thought that the government's concern was about. I have a much simpler view of government, and maybe I'm Pollyanna. I don't really think they want that much control. I don't think they're that competent. I think what they generally want is for us to mostly behave, mostly pay our taxes, and mostly buy shit we don't need. I mean, I think that's primarily the primary motivations and the extent of the competency of control. I know that's not a very sexy narrative, but I mean, I think that's much closer to truth. I think there is a fear, but on what's going to seem like a completely unrelated topic, but it's directly related, is that we, as human beings, you correctly said that we don't understand the human mind, and actually, I think with Steve and others who have said the same thing too. But it's a fact. It's undisputed. We do not. I've been reading a book called The Big Picture by Sean Carroll, and whenever I'm talking about reading, and it's a book on quantum physics, I mean listening to on Audible. I'll just call it reading because I couldn't possibly read all that. But I do try to listen to a lot of nonfiction on things like that. Anyway, the point of that was that yes, everyone acknowledges we don't understand the human mind, from quantum physicist Sean Carroll to Steve Favis to any biologist to any psychologist, any psychiatrist, etc. So anyway, recently there was these Babylonian and Sumerian texts. No, they were Akkadian, and nobody's been able to translate them. It's a form of cuneiform that nobody has been able to break. Rosetta Stone, no Rosetta Stone, no Huffle. They put it into ChatGPT or AI, and AI translated it within 5 minutes. Now, no one's sure yet if the translation is correct or not. But let's go with the assumption that it is correct. Just because we don't know how the human mind works doesn't mean if you don't feed the same set of data into the AI that it won't figure out how the human mind works. And the whole thing about artificial intelligence is that it does learn. So when people are laughing that, the car drives worse than my grandmother, or it said stupid things like, you don't love your wife, leave her, have a relationship with me. That, while it seems funny, that's the computer learning. It is learning how to communicate. It is learning how to process things. So who's to say that the AI will not be able to learn how the human mind works and then leapfrog us entirely? And then we've all lost control. Then we've got now we're going to Garden of Doom territory, but not so much. I mean, I think that is a concern because, everyone remembers Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, the chaos theory, but science fiction writers have been writing about this since Robert Heinlein, probably before that as well. So, is that just something you're like, it's ridiculous? It's not possible, or, we can't control everything. We can't worry about that at the moment. We can always pull the plug.
Yeah. So look, I think people always have these ideas of what becomes conspiracy theory. You're being paranoid, and then there's those that you're being too Pollyanna and you think the world is perfect, right? There's so many different sides to it, and then people try to stay moderate and right down the middle, like, hey, what do we think things can happen? I think it's naive if anybody says it's impossible. Let's just take some other things. Nuclear technology. The Manhattan Project, they came out and they said, look, we're building something. They understood the benefits of it, but then they saw, the dramatic insanity that nuclear power can bring. We all can agree nuclear power is supposed to be the cleanest, supposed to be the best, but people get very worried about what happened in 3 Mile Island and what happened when, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Look, people see that and go, oh my God, that is the possibility. And that's a true statement. But then you have to have these guardrails around things saying, look, you can't do things. Like, you can't just go press a button because it annihilates everybody.
Right.
Is there somebody stupid enough to do that? Maybe there is. And so there's always those possibilities. People that made cars. Somebody can get inside a car and they can go run people over. People can take a car and go at a high rate of speed and kill themselves. there's things that you can do on that side, and you hope that people have guardrails around themselves to not use things in a bad way. You have knives in your kitchen. You could take a knife and go kill somebody, right? Or you think, no, but the knife is meant to cut food and prepare a beautiful dinner. So, I mean, anything in life can have an extreme. Can AI learn and figure people out? I believe it can, right? Not everybody's difficult. If you're typing in there all your feelings and it starts figuring out patterns in terms of what you're saying, it figures out patterns, right, with information. Could that happen? Sure. I already see it. There's some people trying to have relationships with AI.
Right.
I mean, and then they it was I think it was pretty stupid. And then they come out with saying, oh, they broke up with them. They got rid of them because they didn't like the way the relationship was. Sure, there's people that are going to do those things. Do I think general intelligence can eventually come along and a computer system could say, I'm not listening to what you have to say and what, I predicted based on information I'm aware of, the choices you're about to make, Jeff, are very poor for your family, and I'm not going to allow you to do that. Is that possible? I guess if it's part of electrical grid, it's part of gas and water, and has some capability to monitor your bank accounts or turn things off or look at your self-driving car and disable it. I'm sure anything can happen, and I'm sure there's plenty of bad people out there. There are bad people out there today that are taking AI, understand the capabilities of it, and they're using it against people today. So with everything good, there's something bad.
Right.
Can it be done? I believe so. We're not allowing nuclear war to take place. Perhaps we'll allow the same thing not to take place from an AI perspective. Probably the thing we have going for ourselves is that government doesn't want to lose the place they're in, the power. Businesses don't want to lose their money stream. I think the biggest thing that we have to pay attention to right now, a thing that people really have to be thinking about, is not fearing AI, learning about it. Learn what it is, learn the technology, understand how you could play a role in society and business with that understanding of AI. So then as the job market shift, how the requirements shift, you can shift with it. If you say, I'm scared of AI, I'm so scared of it, I'm never going to touch it. It's like somebody saying, I'm scared of driving a car, I'm never going to drive a car. Well, how are you going to get anywhere? So if you don't want to learn AI and you fear it, I'm sorry, but you're probably going to end up getting displaced from your job because they're going to find a way to displace that role. Administrative assistants, maybe in the legal side, maybe, what's that role? The
paralegals?
Paralegal, right? I think the biggest thing is AI and people have to work together to get the best result. Somebody looks over the information that's presented and says whether or not it's right. I think people should really be focused on how do they upskill themselves, how do they get better understanding it, and how do they then play a role in how this technology works within companies, and they can fill that role and help companies be more successful. I don't know if AI is going to replace everybody because I've seen the stuff that comes out, and people still have to look at it and still have to interpret it and still believe what's best for that company. So I think that's the biggest fear. Can it get out of control? I'm sure if somebody has a very bad intention. Jeff, I believe that, yes, somebody can create something that will have bad intentions, just like they're doing today with phishing and cyber attacks and hacking and taking over your bank accounts. I mean, there's people that are going to try to use it from that perspective. I
imagine that there's always going to be some way to control that there's an off button that cannot be overridden by the AI as well. Or, because... Listen, I get that there's a difference between a skeptic and a cynic, but the skeptic doesn't always know the difference whether they're a skeptic or a cynic, or the cynic doesn't always know the difference. So, there's an expression, if you're a hammer, all you see are nails, and that's sort of the cynic. The skeptic, has an entire toolbox, not just hammers. So, I'm not sure which one I am, but obviously, I go a little bit into the probably the cynic role on this one. It's funny when you said if somebody has the wrong idea of eradicating everyone else. There was the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron. Ultron had the right idea, saying the only answer is to eradicate humans. So, again, that's science fiction and all of that. And as long as there's an off button that everybody control on their own. Let's just say Alexa. Because the thing is, you're saying if AI has access to all your personal information in your bank account, Well, they already do. The only people that they don't are probably Luddites, or people like me who don't want to learn that. I don't have Alexa because I'm not because I'm so afraid of giving all the information. I just don't want to learn how to use it. I'm a technophobe. It's amazing I have a podcast, but I mean, we give so much of our information to, most of my banking is done online. If there was a hack, a hack of AI. So I imagine the cybersecurity part of it is probably just as important, if not more important, from your perspective on things. I do want to, just so that we put a pin in it and get to it, I do want your take at some point as to whether, if you can foresee AI creating economies, creating new opportunities, as opposed to being this giant net loss of jobs for people. But I don't want to lose the thread of what we were just talking about, which is the cybersecurity aspect to protecting not just against AI as becoming Ultron, but AI as being hacked by the kid down the street, or if you want to say North Korea, Russian hackers, or whatever, I don't care. Insert whenever you want to have a straw bad guy on this show, and you don't want to, throw any person or country. Just we use the great nation of Jeffzikistan as the bad guy country. So if Jeffzikistan has a lot of hackers, how do you help your clients protect themselves from Jeffzikistan's focused and concerted efforts to hack into their security and AI and get all of their clients and secret information?
Yeah. So it's the interesting thing is the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's the same with technology. What we're doing now from an AI perspective, they're not to use too many cliches. They're not reinventing the wheel and how they do it. They're using the same policies but just applying it to technology. What do I mean by that? So we start off by saying privacy and security is important. From an AI perspective, you have to be concerned about biased information, hallucinations, where AI just makes things up with extreme confidence. Like, I know in business, if somebody says something to me with extreme confidence and they're wrong, that's probably the worst person to have around you because they're so super confident and they steer you down the wrong road. Well, AI can do the same thing. So they're constantly trying to protect against hallucinations and bias, where they're going to give you answers that is not good for your business, doesn't represent your business right, or again steers your decision in the wrong way because of that. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, you have to make sure your information is being scrubbed constantly. It's structured, it's clean, it's organized, it's not biased. And then you have to constantly test your AI model to make sure it's not giving biased answers. It's not hallucinating. Then you have AI too, where they have things like data poisoning. Are people getting access to your system in any way to poison your data to give bad results? Are you gathering information from the World Wide Web where some hacker has poisoned the information that you're now pulling in? So it's going to give a bad result. So from a cybersecurity perspective, you have to ensure that you have teams that are watching the information, securing that data, which is your oil. That's your gold. Put it in a Fort Knox where people can't touch. Have governance policies there. From AI out to the customer responses, you need to be constantly testing. How is it responding to customers? Doing test samples. What's responses it's getting? Is it matching our strategies, our objectives? What we expect our business to be from giving responses to customers. And then from securing your systems, where is it? Is it in the cloud? You have to protect your cloud infrastructure from your data lakes, they call it, which is your data, or any other systems. Are you securing that aspect, which most companies are trying to do? But then getting down to which large language model you're using. Is it an open source model? Do other people have access to it? Can they corrupt it? Are you using OpenAI? Are you okay with them not or yes or not having access to that information to feed their model? If they're not getting it, are you sure that it's being protected from a cybersecurity perspective? So those are the things I look at from that area. And then the people part, like who's training the model? Are they competent? Are they capable? How are you making sure that they're not doing something with your information that can steer your company the wrong way, right? If you're like having a rogue CPA in your organization that starts setting up bank accounts and laundering your money or taking your money from you, you have to make sure that you have the right people in place too. So from cybersecurity, it hasn't changed from that area, but we are seeing some areas too where, I don't know if you've seen the fact that they can they have the deep fakes, where they can take your likeness, your voice, and they can actually duplicate you and have you call in.
Yes, there's a fabulous British show called The Capture, which dealt with that sort of on a almost like an espionage, but no, law enforcement. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's terrifying because nobody believes the news anyway, and it's going to be nigh impossible to tell the difference between real, fake, and whatever. And since nobody trusts anybody anyway now, you're just going to go into whatever corner you believe. So, how do you protect against something like that? Can you?
So a couple of things being done. So the good thing is the people that are developing the AI technology that can clone your voice, they are also developing the technology that will tell people whether or not their technology was used to clone somebody's voice. So there's one company called 11 Labs that is backed by one of the big VC firms. I think it's either 16Z or Y Combinator, that they are developing the technology to clone voices. What they can do is they can take your voice and transfer it into 60 different languages, right? And it sounds like you. But they're also creating the technology to say that we can tell you whether or not it's cloned. So that's good that they're thinking about that from a security perspective. What I think people are going to have to do and companies are going to have to do for the meantime is come down to some basic cybersecurity protections. And I'll give you an example. How do you protect against somebody, a CEO voice that's cloned, calling you in the accounting department saying, write a wire to this bank account? And the accountant does not question the CEO because they don't want to be fired.
Right.
Well, the CEO is going to have to come up with some either codes or code words or emails or, email password links or something like that actually provides an authorization that allows them to move forward with that. So I think that's one thing to think of, is how do you come down to some of the simplest and basic ways to make sure that someone has some way to authenticate that it's you. And that'll be something that you put into place until we all know that these deep fakes are not going to catch us off guard. So that's one thing.
Here's the important thing, and I hope that people like you are doing this, or are on the threshold of doing it, or if the government is wanting to maintain control, they're at least focusing on this aspect. But most things with technology, the bad guys are always one or two steps ahead of law enforcement. I mean, whether it's a Nigerian prince email or, hacking or counterfeit money, the detection is almost always reactionary. And this is too big. The establishments, other than mafia-like establishments, actually need to jump ahead and stay ahead of the bad guys. So, I guess that's sort of what you're talking about.
Sure.
But
so what's happening right now is
you got to hire bad guys though. You got to get the catch a thief thing. You've got to find out who the thieves are before they become thieves and get them on your. It's like preemptive immunity to get people on your side, and you're gonna have to make deals with cyber devils.
Yes. So there's a lot of things going on too. I mean, our job is to make sure we're talking to customers about AI, the positives, and then also being aware of how it can be used against you as well. Because the bad guys are smart enough to know that this AI stuff is pretty important. It can really up their game and get them more money. And they're jumping on it faster than some companies are using it from a positive perspective. But the government right now, DARPA, has actually just started a contest where they're inviting Anthropic and OpenAI and all the big companies as well as small companies to participate in I think it's about a 2-year, about 2025 is when they're going to award the final program out, where they want them to take large language models and actually come up with AI ways to defend the nation and to defend customers. If you look it up, you'll be able to see it as well. So DARPA is running that whole contest, which is good. That means the government is saying, oh crap, we got to think about how do we protect ourselves from a cybersecurity perspective? How do we make sure we're protecting the country from the AI perspective? How do we get ahead of other countries that may have bad intentions? And they're starting right now, and they're actually pushing it out to even smaller companies to say, participate. You have a chance at $1 million or a $5 million prize if you get selected. And people are participating.
For clarity, just so people know who DARPA is, because I'm not sure it's a household name. DARPA it's the Defense Department's Advanced Research and something or other agency or administration.
They're the guys that came out with the drones. They're the guys that came out with probably laser sighting. They're the guys that came out with plastic, probably for all we know. I mean, they develop all these technologies to advance military technology to protect troops, and then that information eventually then goes out to the public domain. So DARPA was funding robots through MIT or was it the Boston Dynamics, right? So,
they're like M Division in James Bond.
Yep.
Not as sexy.
And then eventually that stuff then moves out to the private sector and is used there.
Okay, very cool. I did want to. First of all, I'm not. Did you finish your thoughts on the cybersecurity?
Yeah, I did. But one thing we didn't mention a little bit earlier about government and AI, the IRS just announced that they're now going to use AI to audit. They said about 1,600, which is ultra high net worth individuals and businesses with $10 billion plus in revenue. So they're going to start using AI to start auditing that. So the government's jumping on board as well. The IRS saying, "Hey, we're going to use this technology to our benefit." So,
did they just lose that bill where they were going to get 87,000 new employees? Yeah. So, all right. So now they're finding AI. So they'll find AI that can do the job of 87,000 people.
There you go. There you go.
All right. See, if we just let that bill go through, we'd have people doing it, and then and maybe those people would be at least like every other person which is pretty lazy. So now you got a computer doing it. Well done, people. Well done, America.
I think they would have done the 87,000 plus AI.
Yeah. Well, you could be right about that.
Yeah, because I think they even said with 87,000, they figured that would do it. But I mean, how many? There's 3 million small businesses there. I mean, I don't know. It's maybe 33 million business. I don't remember the number, but I mean, you can't get 87,000 to go through that many.
It makes much more sense. I mean, you don't have human beings reading all the copyright applications. You've got algorithms doing mass screening of it and mass data scraping. Why wouldn't you do that for IR? It's amazing they just thought about that now. It's still a little bit terrifying, but okay.
Did you see Microsoft also just announced that they will protect any company from copyright infringement if they're using their products in an AI space?
I did not see that because so they're basically issuing private copyrights.
I don't know. I've heard the argument now because look, it's all starting up on your side. You're probably seeing a lot of it. This is the Wild Wild West, and there's going to be a lot of cases on. I think New York Times is starting to sue OpenAI right now. But and look, this is not my area of expertise. Probably yours much more. But I believe that copyright infringement is like, well, if you have a copyright in the book, if they don't repeat the book, but they take summaries of the book and give a new work product, then that's not an infringement. That's some new creative material.
Transformative is what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I see Microsoft is like, if you want people to use their Microsoft Copilot, which is AI enabled, and all their products through OpenAI, ChatGPT into their product portfolio, well, then you better start protecting your customers against copyright infringement. Otherwise, you're never going to sell it. So they just claim they're going to protect 100%. They're going to protect them against any copyright infringement.
I imagine it's the difference between owning regular private property and buying property in a homeowners association. Now there's a whole new set of rules, and Microsoft is the homeowners association. It's actually pretty darn smart. You just have to enforce it. I mean, it would be unenforceable if somebody's not using Microsoft, but when you're Microsoft, I mean, you probably go into anybody's system, there's going to be some Microsoft components in there. It's going to be like the federal government. There's federal dollars almost the funnel into everything, so almost everything's a federal question these days. Interesting.
So Google also has the competitor. So Microsoft's coming out with Copilot. It's being tested right now. 600 companies in the early adopt this program. They didn't release it out to the general public yet, but Google was caught basically with their pants down. Oh God, Microsoft's coming out with this. They raced and created Duet AI, which is their Bard on all their products and services. You can buy that right now. It'll be very interesting to see if Google now follows suit and protects all their customers against copyright infringement by using their AI, Google Duet AI.
Interesting.
If that happens, you're going to just see, wow, right? I mean, you're probably going to be pretty excited about everything that happens on that side.
Yeah, no, I will. If I'm not, then my partners will be, which is even better because they like doing the work. They just like me to write a blog about it every now and then. So hope they're not listening. Actually, I hope they are. Guys, listen. Anyway, enough about that. So let's go back to the jobs thing. So aside from my Ultron fears, let's put those on the side. A more tomorrow fear is that. Again, we pre-production, we're talking about how I fully endorse and believe in the concept that technology typically leads to more businesses, more economy, more opportunity. The entire history of history has shown that the plow didn't put any farmers out of business. May have put dirt out of business, but it took 10,000 years. Every kind of, assembly lines didn't end the American worker, et cetera, and everything about it. AI seems differently. AI seems like it can actually replace people, which is not a problem in and of itself. I'm just not sure what new roles people take to fill that in. And if that's the case, I mean, it's like the private sector and innovation is actually forcing this, almost like WALL-E kind of, socialism world where you have to have a socialistic stake to take, because you can't have 40% unemployed. I mean, not in America anyway. Maybe in Chad and they don't like it, but that's what it is. By the way, I was told by someone that if you want to hire pretty good soldiers for cheap, if you're a private military contract, Chad is like your version of the IT people from India. Chad, you can get pretty darn good soldiers, and for reasonably cheap. So for all of you who need a private army out there, maybe you'll need a private army one day. So anyway, is my fear exaggerated? Is it too much? Is it something that when it plays out, just trust the past, that the economies will come, the industries will come? Or do you already see places where humans will be needed to fill roles that will be higher paying and ultimately more voluminous than what they're doing right now? That the paralegal will actually be retrained and find better, higher paying jobs, while the ChatGPT does the paralegal work. The paralegal will now become some sort of cybersecurity expert or whatever.
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and you phrased it very well, right? The people in the horse business making horseshoes and doing everything there. The cars came along, like, no, we're going to stay with it. Well, it changed and it improved things, sped things up, and yes, they shifted. People didn't starve making horseshoes, right? They migrated to a different part. The assembly line, you're right. When robots came in, the GE and all that, yes, less people they needed, but they didn't starve. I mean, towns changed, right? Cities changed when they collapsed and moved things into the other areas that were necessary. But people had to move out of those cities and find different roles. I would say, look, nobody has a crystal ball. I think Deloitte and Goldman Sachs have said there could be 300 million lost jobs due to AI. I mean, people are making a lot of predictions. Is it just to get them to buy their research? Maybe. We all know that people do clickbait, right? Mm-hmm. Is it going to change roles? Yes, you said it right. It's going to. It can remove somebody sitting at the front desk to answer a phone call. They have AI software that can answer a call and say, "Hi, Jeff. Hi, this is Kurt from BCD Strategy. How may I help you?" "Hi, I'm Jeff Flipman. I was trying to reach Kurt." "Oh, great, Jeff. It's great to speak to you. I'll transfer you through right now." You don't need somebody sitting at the front office to do that. And frankly, there's a lot of people who have been already eliminated from that aspect because you have voicemail systems and people just call them. So I think the best thing to do is what I said earlier on. Do not fear it. Fear is, no matter what it is in life, if somebody says, here's a car, if you fear the car, you're never going to learn how to drive the car. If somebody says, here's a new TV, it's different than the way the previous TV was. It's a smart TV. Learn how to use it. You say, no, I don't want to use it. I want to stay with my old TV. Well, look, everybody's going to keep getting new TVs, and when your TV breaks, you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't know anything about this, right? I can't get Netflix. I don't have a smart TV. I don't understand this. I'm going to pay more money for Roku because I don't have it built into my TV, right? There's always going to be something that's going to happen that's going to force you in that direction. I believe it's smart for people to start learning about AI. Play with ChatGPT. Get to understand it. Don't fear it. Understand what it is. Like, I don't use Alexa. I understand it. I don't use Siri on my phone. I understand it. I don't have a need for it. I don't want to use it. Because frankly, those bother me when I'm talking in the office. I have a Google system for cameras in the office, and I'll be speaking, all of a sudden say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Wait, what do you mean? What are you listening to my conversations for? Like, I don't know what information is gathered. What if I'm talking about a customer, right? Or talking to a customer? They don't want that picking it up with NDA, so you have to turn that off. But if you don't fear it, you learn it, you understand all the capabilities of it, what the next generation is going to do, Generation Z and all them, they've been playing with phones. They're playing with Roblox. They're playing with Fortnite. They have expectations of immediate information. They have expectations of, whoa, I just asked Siri and Siri just tells me, right? This is that generation. They're going to expect that. They know it. They're learning it. They're going to naturally find roles that are going to complement that area. The person that's scared of it is never going to change, is going to be replaced. When email came along, you didn't need people on typewriters typing things onto, the paper that my mom used to do, where it's you write on, it makes 3 copies, you rip it, you put it in a box, and somebody takes it. I mean, we didn't see a mass, layoff. They had to learn how to use typewriters, and then from typewriters, you had to move to computers, and they all just kept getting retrained, and they all had to find different ways. If somebody wasn't skilled enough, they went and found a job that wasn't as skilled. Things that people need. They become housekeepers or, working with unskilled labor, supporting contractors and moving shingles or, whatever it may be.
So if you don't fear email, don't worry about the post office. Understand that when clients expect you to be on call 24/7, that you start billing them for things 24/7, and then you hire more people to handle the 24/7 work. And the people that you hire, maybe are making more than the postal carrier was making.
Yeah. Here's an example too. So if you have paralegals in your business, Jeff, and you have paralegals that you have the type of person that says, look, I'm 65 years old. I've been doing this my whole life. I'm retiring in 5 years. I'm just making this up, folks. It doesn't mean that's going to be the case. I don't want to learn anything new. I'm stuck in my ways. And people have, people think there's people like that. And there's people at 65 that say, wow, I just played Fortnite. It was the most amazing thing I ever did, right? You have different people. If you have a paralegal that says, I'm sorry, Jeff, this is the way I do it. It's the only way I do it. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it any different way. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I have a way to now improve the customer experience of my end client. I can get cases to them right away. I can bill them faster. I can get them answers faster. And I need you to adopt this technology in order to do so. You're going to take the paralegal that says, hey, Jeff, I know ChatGPT. I understand AI. I can actually help us integrate it into our business and get the best of it. Which person are you going to keep?
Yeah, the one that can make my life easier and then isn't causing friction between me and clients.
There you go. So the one that resisted, the one that didn't learn it, the one that said, I'm never changing my ways, I'm scared of it, is going to be replaced by the one that says, I learned it, I understand it. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to help you succeed in rolling this new software out.
Right. More importantly, the person who's going to make me look like I'm on the cutting edge of technology, although I haven't changed at all.
You got it. I think that is probably the best answer that anybody can give, because nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen. But I believe that we all have a personal responsibility to continue learning, to continue self-improvement. And if we do so, we're going to see where things go, and we're going to have the capabilities in order to make businesses better by using technology that will make a business better as well. And then if the role is no longer a paralegal, then we're going to see an opening of doing something else. Like you said, maybe, hey, I never knew I love coding. I don't like this paralegal stuff. Now I want to code. Look, I understand AI can code itself as well. GPT can do all this coding, but you never know. You can find another area where you're best suited because you understood it and you didn't fear it. And I think that's the best way to kind of approach it and protect yourself against the downside, which we all don't know what it is just yet.
Well, I assume that during this transition for the Jeffs of the world, or, when the Gen Zers decide that to stop being miserable and they actually should use their tech skills to actually work for a living, in this bridge time, that this is where DCT fills the void?
That's correct. That's correct. Because what we have right now is, look, I think we covered a lot of areas. We have the following. We have companies that are heard about AI, but you know what? They're doing it the way they used to do. Let's call it the baby boomers that are running a lot of businesses in this world. You have an older generation that is leading companies as well. Then you have younger generations leading companies too. So you have legacy companies, let's call them, that are running business for a very long time. They have a couple of detracting factors against them right now. One is the baby boomers are the biggest spenders right now in the economy, but that's slowly changing. I think they said by 2030, it's going to flip to where Gen Z, Gen X are going to be the biggest spenders. Baby boomers are going to start falling off. So now your demographic of business that you sell to are going to be the up and coming generation that are technology savvy, and expect responses like that. So you either in a legacy business start adapting to what your demographic wants, or you're going to be replaced by somebody else. So there's that generation. And then you have the generation of the up-and-coming businesses that are saying, look, I'm going to start my business that's AI-ready today. It's AI-enabled. It's AI-fueled. We know how it runs, and we're going to be that business that's taken on the legacy businesses. And then you have people running the companies that are fear AI and don't want to change what their processes are. You have companies that say, hey, I know AI is the next best thing. I need to take advantage of this because if I don't, my competitors are, and they're going to put me out of business. Or they're going to take enough customers from me that I'm going to go out of business. And then you have the companies that say, I already know AI, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, these companies that are hiring data scientists every single day because they're going to build products and services as fast as they possibly can. I just read an article that Deutsche Bank is hiring data scientists faster than they can find them. I think they're at the 300 right now. They are rolling out applications and doing proof of concepts to make sure their pilots work before they roll them out. So we work with all different types of customers. Customers know what they want. Well, if they know what they want and they just want a data scientist, well, they can hire anybody. You can go to an outsourcing firm and just start picking up data scientists. We work with the companies right in the middle that understand what AI is going to do. They hear of it, but they just don't know where to begin. They're not sure what it can do for them. They don't know the strategy. They don't know the objectives, and they need some help. That's where we come in. Because if you don't want to do anything, then why would you hire us? Right? So it's like if somebody was in trouble and didn't want to come to you and say, hey, I need help, there's nothing you can do for them. But if they look, hey, I'm in trouble, I need some help, I don't know what to do, that's a perfect client for you. I know what to do. We've done this before. Here's the strategy. This is how we're going to defend you or help you, or whatever the case may be. Same here. So we've created an offer. It's an assessment offer up front. It's AI strategy and readiness assessment is what we do up front. And what that does is the following. In about 1 to 2 weeks, we look at their business and say, where is all your data? Because the data is the most important thing that's going to feed AI. It's the lifeblood of any business. Where is it? Is it structured? Is it ready to be used? Because garbage in is garbage out to an AI model. It's got to be good information. Otherwise, you get bias, you get hallucinations, you get bad inputs, bad outputs. So we look at what that looks like. We look at their infrastructure, and then we help them work on what is your strategy. Like, stop. Before you do anything, before you go buy a car and go turn it on and just go 100 miles an hour, maybe you should learn how to operate a vehicle, right? Mm-hmm. What is it that you want to accomplish? Is your strategy to improve the customer experience? Is your objective to get cost savings? Is it a productivity enhancement? Is it revenue generation? Like, what is it that you want to do? So we sit down with customers and say, let's look at your data. Let's look at your infrastructure. And then let's discuss what is your strategy and your objective. Let's lay that out first. Once you have that in place, you're ready to go. Now you could say, I know where my data is. I know it can be fed into my tool. I know what strategy and objective it is. So now I can build an AI model. I'm ready to go. Now I can start testing this out. I'll start small. Let's start getting some success. Let's build a model. And then we become more proficient from there. I will say this. The companies that have already began testing out AI today, they're building models, they're making mistakes, they're failing, they're getting better, they're becoming more proficient, they're going to be the leaders in the industry going forward. because they've learned and they're getting better and they're going to roll it out as fast as they possibly can. We want to help every other company out get to that point, but you need to understand what your data is. You need to understand what AI model you want to use, what your IT infrastructure looks like, what's your strategy and your objective. And once you have that, the fear subsides. Now you're clear. I understand what we're doing. We have a plan. It's documented. You can tell your board, your executive team, we're ready to go. And now you can actually start working on something. You can measure it, see if it's successful, and just keep building it over time. That's where we help. Excellent.
Well, how do they find you?
Visit our website, DCT Strategy. So it's www.dctstrategy.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Kurt R. Stein. I post a lot on there, give a lot of free information out. Or if you're listening to this, maybe it'll be listed in the notes. That's how you find us.
Kurt with a K.
Kurt with a K.
Okay. Anything that I forgot or didn't ask you that I should have?
No, I think you covered it all. You covered, should we be scared of it? How do we protect against the downside, like losing our job? How we help companies out, kind of demystify AI and keep the fear out so they're not scared of it. I think you covered a lot of topics.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I just want to make sure we got everything that you want to cover also, because you're the guest. All right. So we both come out of this with what we want. So that's great. All right, folks, if you are interested in more, or if you're a business owner and you want to look into it, Kurt's provided the information, but it is DCT Technologies. Thank you very much for being on the show. And and thanks all you folks for listening. And give us a rating, give us a review. 5 stars is terrific. Nice little like, a subscribe. And refer us to your friends, family, and business colleagues, because that is the best source of show growth, is actual personal referrals and recommendations. With that, we thank our guests once again. Thank you, Kurt. And you'll hear from us again next week.
Thank you again, Jeff.
Material things destined to grasp every little bit of happiness, but without a purpose, do we truly know what we are good for? Do our philosophies make sense when we truly test them? I'm more than just a ghost in the again. I cannot be explained, no, I'm no coincidence. Take me apart and put me back together again.